Dear listeners, a huge shout out to Mario Gear for writing a spin-off story of a sniper fight for survival. If you'd like to watch the original story, the link is in the description box. Now, let's begin. When I 19M graduated high school, I had a plan. Use the inheritance my grandfather left me to help pay for college work part-time and maybe graduate debt-free if I played my cards right. My grandfather was the only one in my family who ever truly encouraged me to pursue higher education. Before he passed, he set up a trust fund specifically earmarked for my college expenses. It was untouchable by anyone but me. Once I turned 18, my dad, James Sr., he's always favored my older brother, 28M, who I'll call James Jr., who was getting married, and he and his fiancée wanted to buy a house. One day my dad sat me down and gave me the talk, how family comes first, how we all make sacrifices, and how it would mean the world if I agreed to let my inheritance be used for James Jr.'s wedding and a down payment on a house. I was floored. This wasn't just a couple $1,000, we're talking over 6 figures. My grandpa worked hard his whole life and made it very clear that this money was for my future. Legally, my parents couldn't touch it, but they needed my permission to access the funds through the trustee. They wanted me to just hand it over. I told them I'd think about it, but inside, I was pissed. I knew that saying no would paint me as the villain in their eyes. Selfish, ungrateful, and all that noise. So instead, I came up with a compromise. I told them 1, I would release the funds as a loan, not a gift. 2, the loan had to be repaid in full within 4 years. 3, if they failed to repay it, they would sign over ownership of their house to me as collateral. At first they bought. My dad even yelled, "You're treating us like strangers." But I stayed calm and told them I was protecting my future, just like Grandpa intended. I used part of my summer job savings to hire a lawyer and had the paperwork drawn up. They signed it before I released the funds. After that, I did something I'd been considering for a while. I enlisted in the military. I figured the GI Bill would help me cover school while the loan was tied up. I'd serve, grow, and still get my degree when I got out. Fast forward 2 years, James Jr. is married, living in a house partially funded by my inheritance. I'm overseas working hard and stacking up education benefits. And guess what? Not a single payment has been made on the loan. Not one in 2 more years. If nothing changes, the house my parents love so much, it's legally mine. I don't know how I feel about that. Part of me feels cold, but another part of me thinks maybe it's time someone in this family started valuing fairness over favoritism. Life in the Army took me places I never imagined. What started as a practical decision to serve my country and make use of the GI Bill turned into a lifelong commitment. I rose through the ranks quickly. Maybe it was discipline. Maybe it was the anger I kept buried, or maybe I had something to prove. A few years into my service, I was offered a shot at something rare. A chance to go through selection for one of the Army's most elite units. Delta Force. I can't go into details, obviously, but if you know, you know. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, mentally and physically, but I made it. That meant more years added to my service. One mission turned into another. One deployment bled into the next. For years, became 10. 10 became 19. Now I'm 38, sitting at a forward operating base in an undisclosed location, still fighting a war that most people back home barely think about anymore. I've seen things I'll never be able to explain to anyone who hasn't been. There I've lost brothers, held dying hands, taken lives, and through it all I never heard a word from my parents, not since the day they signed that loan contract. No thank you, no apology, no payments, just radio silence. Years later I checked in with a lawyer just to see where things stood. By then a lot had changed. My mother had passed away from cancer. We hadn't spoken in years. I found out from an old neighbor who'd reached out to my attorney. My father was in a nursing home battling the early
stages of Alzheimer's. According to the nurses, he didn't even remember who I was. But here's the twist. My brother and his family, they were living in the house that legally belonged to me. Turns out James Jr. had lost his home to foreclosure.
A couple years back, bad investments, a failed business. The usual story. Instead of rebuilding or reaching out, he just moved his family into my property. He never asked, never called, just squatted in the remnants of our broken family legacy. But I didn't push it. I had other things to focus on. Amid deployments, firefights, and classified missions, I found ways to stay productive. I enrolled in online courses, took distance learning seriously. Education became my escape. Fast forward to now, I hold 2 doctorates, one in electrical engineering and the other in computer science. Yeah, I know. Go figure, 19 years into my military career, I was suiting up for another mission. Intel confirmed we were closing in on a high V-value target. Same rhythm, same adrenaline until my co pulled me aside. He had that look, the one every soldier dreads. Red Cross message, it's about your family. My stomach dropped. Turns out my brother and his wife had been in a car accident. Bad. Both in critical condition. Barely hanging on in a hospital back in the States. And here's the kicker. I'm the only next of kin listed. Their 2 kids, Kylie 16 and Jimmy 13, had no one else. No aunts, no uncles, no grandparents, no godparents, just me. The message ended with a direct order I was to return home immediately. My mission changed in an instant, from tracking down enemies of the state to stepping into a role I never prepared for, guardian uncle-father figure. After landing back at Fort Bragg, I wasted no time. I had my personal gear stowed and picked up my old bike, a 2011 Suzuki GSX or 750 matte black, still running like a dream thanks to the upgrades I'd squeezed in between deployments. Normally transporting both myself and the motorcycle would have been a logistical nightmare, but rank and reputation have their perks. A few favors were called in, and next thing I knew, I was wheels up with my bike loaded into the belly of a military transport bound for Naval Air Station Moffett Field in Mountain View, California. It was 0300 hours when we touched down. The air had that cool coastal bite that always reminded me of home. I offloaded the bike, geared up, and hit the road. At that hour there was no traffic, just open streets and old memories. It took me less than 20 minutes to reach my old neighborhood. I turned onto the familiar street engine, humming beneath me like an old friend. As I pulled into the driveway of my parents' house, the one that had legally become mine years ago, everything hit me at once. The porch light still flickered the same way it used to. The mailbox still leaned slightly to the left. The cracks in the driveway hadn't moved an inch. Not much had changed. I rolled up to the side entrance where my old studio apartment, a converted garage, sat untouched. I reached for my key, fully expecting it not to work after all these years. But click, the lock turned, still worked. I opened the door, half bracing for a mess or some sign that someone had squatted there over the years, but to my surprise, everything was exactly how I left it. Same futon bed, same desk with my old textbooks. Even a half-full box of protein bars I'd left behind was still on the shelf, now expired, but strangely untouched. It felt like the room had just been paused, waiting for me. I dropped my duffel, peeled off my jacket, and collapsed on the bed. I was out cold within minutes, but the sleep didn't last long. Jet lag maybe, nerves probably. But deep down, I knew the peace was only temporary. Everything in my life had just changed. My niece and nephew were out there alone, scared, and the man they were about to meet wasn't just some long-lost uncle. He was a stranger with scars they'd never understand. I don't know how long I was out, 30 minutes, an hour, maybe I was deep in it. One of those combat dreams that grabs you by the throat and drags you back to the worst places you've ever been. Dust gunfire, screams, chaos, then whack. Something hard cracked across my ribs before I could open my eyes. Whack again, this time across the shoulder. All right, I'm awake, I shouted, instinct taking over as I rolled off the bed, braced, and half reached to strike. My eyes snapped open and I found myself staring down the beam of a flashlight and the glint of a sheriff's deputy's badge. Hands where I can see him. He barked, already reaching for his cuffs. What the hell is this? I growled, blinking through the light. You're under arrest for trespassing, he said flatly, like this was just another Monday night call. Bullshit, I own this place. He scoffed. Yeah, right, buddy. Got ID in my duffel. Let me grab it. Long pause. He hesitated, then nodded. I moved slow, deliberate military, slow to keep him from freaking out. I unzipped the bag and pulled out my military ID, driver's license, and a copy of the property deed. I handed them over. He flipped through them, and just like that, the cocky look melted off his face. Command Sergeant Major Mario Castillo, he muttered, clearing his throat. His posture shifted. Respect, guilt, awkwardness, all rolled into one, sir. My apologies. We got a call from the kids in the main house. Your niece and nephew said they heard shouting. Thought a squatter or burglar broke in. I let out a tired laugh. Yeah, well, night terrors will do that. He handed me back my documents and tipped. His hat. Totally understandable. I'll go explain the situation to them. They were pretty shaken up. I nodded, rubbing the sore spot on my shoulder where he'd whacked me. Tell them I'm not a ghost, just a forgotten uncle home from war. He gave me a sympathetic look, then stepped out and headed toward the main house. I exhaled slowly. The adrenaline was fading, but the ache in my chest was growing. This wasn't how I wanted to meet them. Kylie and Jimmy, the kids I'd only seen in old Christmas cards, social media photos, and the occasional blurry pic forwarded to my email. Now I was all they had, and I just made my entrance as the mysterious combat vet who scared the hell out of them. Time to make things right. As soon as the deputy stepped out to talk to Kylie and Jimmy, I sat back down on the edge of the bed and pulled out my phone. My hands were still, shaking not from fear, but from the tail end of that combat adrenaline. My ribs ached from the deputy's wake-up call, and my brain was still switching gears from warfighter to uncle. I scrolled through my contacts and tapped the name I knew I needed. My lawyer. This better be important, Mario. I just got woken up with a billy club and nearly cuffed for breaking into my own property. You tell me if that's important? A pause, then a sigh. You're back already. Landed at Moffett at 0300. Just got here. I need you at the house now. It's 4:10 in the morning and you live 10 minutes away. Kylie called you after she called 911, didn't she? Another pause, then an exhale through the nose, caught red-handed. Yeah, she was freaked out. Didn't know who was in the apartment. I told her to call the police just in case. Didn't think you'd be in the middle of a PTSD episode the minute you walked in the door. Neither did I. I'll be there in 10. He hung up. I stood by the open doorway watching the blue and red flashes from the patrol car dance across the side of the house. I could see the silhouettes of the deputy talking to two smaller figures by the porch. One tall and skinny had to be Kylie, the other shorter and hunched behind her. Jimmy. The weight of the moment settled in. They weren't just names in an emergency file anymore. They were real. Right here. And now, they were mine. I took a breath and stepped back inside. It was time to face them, but not alone. I wanted my lawyer there, not for legal backup, but to anchor me in reality, to help me bridge the gap between the war zone I'd come from and the battlefield I was about to step into. Family. The deputy had calmed the kids down by the time my lawyer pulled up. Blackout. Always punctual. Always precise. That was David Clean, my attorney, longtime fixer, and unofficial guardian angel. He stepped out, tie, half-knotted coffee in one hand, briefcase in the other. Jesus. Mario, he said, you sure know how to make an entrance. I gave him a nod, rubbing. My ribs got woken up by a cop with a baton. Thought I was back in Fallujah. Yeah, I heard Kylie called me right after she dialed 911, said there was shouting coming from the back apartment. Figured it was a break-in. I gestured toward the house. Let's go meet them. He paused. Before we do something came across my desk last night and it's not good." I looked at him sideways. Define not good. He opened his briefcase and handed me a file. Inside were court documents, motions filed less than 48 hours. AGO from a corporate law firm based out of DC, Cerberus Defense Solutions. "They're challenging the intellectual property filed under Phantom Circuit," David said. "Specifically, they're targeting Project Aegis, claiming you built it while under a government joint task force. They're saying you had no right to take the architecture private." My jaw clenched. Cerberus, I'd heard the name whispered in blackside hallways. Seen it mentioned in classified briefings. A private military contractor turned corporate weapons developer. The kind of company that didn't just play the game, they rigged it. Ruthless, political, always hungry for what wasn't theirs, and the timing too perfect. "I'll deal with it," I said coldly. After this, we walked toward the porch. The deputy met us halfway. "They're calmer now," he said, voice more respectful this time. "Still shaken, but they're ready to talk." I stepped past him. There they were. Kylie, 16, tall like her mom, arms crossed and guarded defiance, trying not to look scared. Jimmy, 13, hunched on the steps, hoodie up, eyes red, silent. I'd fought warlords, extremists, and hackers in concrete bunkers. But this scared me more than all of it. I cleared my throat. "Hey, I'm Mario," your Uncle Kylie stiffened. "You're him." Jimmy looked up. "We thought you were dead." "Not yet," I said, managing a faint smile. "But I've come a long way to be here." Silence. Then Kylie, sharp as ever, "If you're here, what happens to us now?" I looked them both in the eyes, and in that moment I realized they weren't just someone else's kids. They were my responsibility now, whether I was ready or not. "You come with me, we figure this out together. No foster care, no system. Your family and I protect mine." Jimmy wiped his nose. Kylie didn't move, but her eyes, they softened. Just a little. David stood behind me, clearing his throat again. "Also, Mario." I didn't want to say this in front of them, but no. "Say it." He sighed. "The police report from the accident, it's off. There are discrepancies in the GPS data surveillance. Footage shows a black SUV tailing them for 8 hours before the crash. Then it disappears. No plates, no trace. My instincts fired. This wasn't just bad luck. This was a warning. Cerberus had declared war. I sat in the dark, the quiet of the old apartment wrapping around me like a weighted blanket I didn't ask for. The deputy was outside, still talking to the kids. I could hear Kylie's sharp voice, panicked, defensive. Jimmy's barely audible behind hers. I leaned back against the wall and closed my eyes. And just, like always, when things go too quiet, the past comes calling. Eastern Syria, 2016, Operation Sentinel Phoenix. It was supposed to be a quick snatch and grab. Intel said 3 hostages tied up on a dirt floor inside a mud brick compound in the middle of nowhere. We dropped in under a moonless sky. Me and the team, blacked out gear, suppressed weapons, heartbeats synced. But nothing ever goes as planned. One of our team leaders caught a round through the leg during breach. Didn't scream, just hit the dirt and kept his rifle up. I didn't hesitate. Slung my weapon, threw him over my shoulder, and ran him through the smoke, while covering fire lit the sky like a thunderstorm. Bullets clipped the stone behind me. Snap, snap, snap. You never forget that. Sound weeks filled with all 3 hostages, no coups. But that was the night I realized something. I wasn't just a soldier anymore. I was responsible. West Africa, 2018. The black site of friendly intel post got overrun by local militia, backed by a foreign actor. Rumors were flying about classified tech and people still trapped inside. We went in under the radar, no flags, no tags. 12 hours after boots on ground, we reached the site. Wrecked, burned out. Booby-trapped, we went room to room, low and tight. Got pinned by a sniper in a broken tower. I crawled out, marked the glint of his scope through shimmering heat, took the shot myself. Suppressed one round 400 nanometers, he dropped without a sound. We retrieved a hard drive loaded with surveillance data on U.S. assets, go top, no press, no medals, just another night. Doing a job no one knew existed. Joint Task Force Operation GhostNet 2022. This one wasn't about bullets. This time, I fought with code. We were tracking an encrypted comms network tied to a global terror web. What started as cyber support turned into a joint strike op. Part special ops, part digital warfare. With my doctorate in computer science, I was embedded with Cyber Command. We isolated their relay hub buried in ghost servers and burner nodes. It took weeks of recon language modeling and pattern tracing to crack it, but once we did, we coordinated a 38-second takedown in the US, Jordan and Germany simultaneously. Drones, commandos, digital kill switches, it worked. The network went dark, and the attacks we stopped would have killed thousands, but more important than any win Operation GhostNet was the spark. It caught the attention of other operators and analysts like me, people who'd lived in the shadows but were ready to build something new, something bigger. That's when we started sketching the idea that would become Phantom Circuit Technologies. At first, it was just notes on a napkin. But it was the first time in years I thought about a life after Delta. Not a life of war, but of purpose. The memories burned off like fog. I blinked and found myself back in the garage apartment, knees aching, ribs sore from the deputy's flashlight. Greeting, but those flashbacks, they weren't nightmares, they were the realist parts of me. The reason I survived when others didn't, and now I had to face something more terrifying than any war zone family. 2 kids I'd never raised, a brother hanging by a thread, a future I never planned for. And I had no idea if I was ready. Tagline built in the shadows, designed for defense, engineered for resilience. The founding I'd spent nearly 2 decades living with only what I needed. No luxury cars, no flashy watches, no 6-figure lifestyle like some of the guys who blew there. Deployment bonuses as fast as they got them. Me, I read white papers, studied defense stocks, spent time between deployments, investing in high-dividend ETFs, cybersecurity firms, and encryption startups. By the time Operation GhostNet wrapped in 2022, I had enough saved between military bonuses, frugal living, and smart investing to seed a company. No VC funding, no debt. Just discipline, experience, and a vision. I wrote the first check myself. I didn't want suits telling me how to build something. They never bled. For the core team, one Mario Castillo, founder and CEO, acting command sergeant, Major Delta Force. 2 PhDs, computer science and electrical engineering. Visionary, tactical, field tested. Holds multiple patents developed in active combat. Zones leads with a mix of back-end engineering logic and battlefield precision. 2 Dr. Marcus Rain, Chief Technology Officer, former NSA contractor turned ethical hacker, met during a joint op in Germany. Brilliant, a little paranoid, and lethal with a keyboard. 3 Sophia, Redlin, Director of Operations, ex-SOCOM Logistics Officer, infrastructure expert, handles secure facility construction, hardware procurement, and redundancy. Planning. 4 Alexei Ghost, Petrov, Chief Security Architect. Former Russian SIGINT specialist turned U.S. intelligence asset, defected in 2017. Knows how the enemy thinks and how to stop them. Core services, cyber threat analysis, and early detection systems. AI-driven defense for government and critical infrastructure, private sector, digital fortification, secure tactical communications, and networking, active breach response protocols. Notable projects: Project Aegis real-time, AI ransomware, neutralization, now in pilot testing with a major West Coast hospital network. Iron Silk quantum-resistant encryption protocol, currently under evaluation by the Department of Energy. EcoAtch silent monitoring system deployed across U.S. embassies in high-rise CISC. Region's base of operations, headquartered in a hardened facility near Moffett Field, Mountain View, California. Originally, a data center now rebuilt from the ground up, using military-grade security protocols, biometric locks, EMF shielding, and Faraday cage conference rooms. My role now, I'm still technically on active duty, though I'm in transition phantom circuit runs because I bled for every line of code and policy it's built on. Now with Kylie and Jimmy in my care, I'm trying to juggle 3 fronts: the future of my firm, the safety and healing of my family, and the growing shadow of a past that refuses to stay buried. Cerberus is coming, and they don't want to just steal my tech. They want to dismantle everything I've built from the inside out. But Phantom Circuit wasn't built to break, it was built to fight back. The deputy had calmed the kids and left. My lawyer had gone quiet, head down in a file folder flipping pages like he was trying to stall. Then he spoke again. "I didn't want to hit you with this all at once, but something came across my desk last night. You need to see it." He handed me a thick legal packet. Inside were motion filings, subpoenas, and cease and desist letters, all stamped with the insignia of a corporate law firm out of DC. Cerberus Defense Solutions. They're challenging your IP. He said, claiming Project Aegis was developed under a joint task force umbrella, meaning it belongs to the US government and possibly to Cerberus. If they win the contract, I didn't answer right away. Just stared at the page with their logo, a 3-headed dog over a globe. Cerberus didn't just go after contracts. They went after legacies. They played the long game. Lawsuits, buyouts, blackmail. Or when that didn't work, elimination. They're going for a full claim on your patents, David added. And I'm willing to bet this accident involving your brother wasn't just bad luck. I didn't need to bet, I already knew. I folded the papers, handed them back, and stood up. I need to see them, I said. Kylie and Jimmy were still sitting on the porch, quiet under the early morning haze. Kylie stood when she saw me. Jimmy didn't move, just hugged his knees. Hoodie pulled low, I approached slowly. You're probably wondering what happens next, I said. Kylie nodded. Are we staying here for now? She crossed her arms. And what happens when Cerberus shows up again? I didn't sugarcoat it. They won't stop at legal action. They're playing dirty. I need you both to be honest with me about everything you saw, heard, felt, especially that night Jimmy spoke for the first time since the driveway incident. There was a black SUV. It was following us for a while. Dad said it was nothing, but Mom looked scared. Kylie added, after the crash, I thought I saw someone walk away from the trees nearby like they were watching us. I nodded. You saw exactly what they wanted you to. Just enough fear to send a message. Kylie's eyes hardened. So, what do we do? I looked back at David, then out toward the quiet street. We do what I've always done. We fight back. Later that morning, David was just about to leave when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, and handed it to me without a word. Hospital surveillance footage. New file uploaded by a private contact. I tapped play. The footage showed the hallway outside James and Emma's ICU room at 341A. Emma, janitor, pushed a cleaning cart slowly past the nurse's station. Nothing suspicious until he stopped near room 714, glanced at the door, and pulled something from beneath a mop sleeve. A syringe. He tried the door, locked. A nurse appeared. He nodded, politely turned around and walked away. That's not a hospital employee, David said. There's no record of that guy ever signing in. I clenched my jaw. Cerberus wasn't just poking around anymore. They were testing the perimeter, seeing how close they could get, how far they could push. The storm was coming, and I was done waiting for it. We sat at the kitchen table, me, Kylie, Jimmy, with 2 ft of space between us, like a demilitarized zone. Jimmy fiddled with the edge of his hoodie sleeve. Kylie tapped her phone like it owed her money. Neither said a word. I cleared my throat, so I'm not great at small talk. Never had to be, but I figured we should talk before we head to the hospital. Kylie looked up. Do you have kids? I blinked. No, ever been married? Hesitated once. So why do you get to decide what happens to us? I didn't flinch because right now I'm the only one who hasn't walked away or died. That landed harder than I meant. Kylie looked away. Jimmy shrank into his chair. I sighed. Look, I get it. I'm a stranger with medals and a motorcycle, but I'm not here to replace your parents. I'm just trying to make sure you're not alone. Jimmy finally spoke. You were in the Army, still am. Delta Force. He perked up like Call of Duty. Delta Force, the elites. I smirked. Exactly like that. Only in real life. The checkpoints don't reset when you die. Jimmy's eyes lit up. Kylie glanced at me, intrigued, despite herself. Later at the hospital, Kylie sat quietly by her dad's bedside. Tubes beeping monitors. Bruises, oxygen mask. She didn't cry, just stared. Jimmy wandered off to get water. I stepped into the far end of the ICU wing and pulled out my phone. This wasn't just family business anymore. This was a security threat. I scrolled through my encrypted contacts and tapped the one labeled Argus Solutions Emergency Line. It rang once. A voice answered. Calm, cold, efficient. Go ahead, this is Castillo. I need a two-man surveillance team on site at Mountain View. General Hospital Private ICU Ward Floor. 7. Immediate response. Non-lethal presence but fully equipped. Visual coverage, lobby rotation. Any unauthorized attempts at access logged and flagged duration. Until I say otherwise, pause. Understood. ETA. 40 minutes, facial recognition sync already uploaded. I'll send live updates. Any specific threat profile corporate. Possible black ops contractor. Siberhaus Defense. Might be probing. Or scrubbing. Make sure my brother and his wife stay alive. Copy that. I ended the call and slipped the phone back into my pocket. Then leaned against the wall, watching the elevator doors like they might open on the devil himself. If Cabarrus had something to do with that crash, this wasn't over. This was the opening shot. I spotted them the moment they entered the hospital. Lobby Argus Solutions handpicked from a short list of former operators and intel specialists I trusted with my life. 2 men, one tall and broad former JSOC, the other wiry and quiet with that thousandy stare of someone who's seen too much and talks even less. They moved like professionals. No flashy suits, no visible weapons, no earpieces, just eyes sharp enough to cut glass. Already clocking exits, surveillance angles and threat vectors. Command Sergeant Major, the tall one, said, nodding. As they approached Jackson Harlow, I replied, "You're not here for me. Eyes on room 719 and 723. That's James and Emma Castillo. I want real-time tracking on anyone who comes within 30 FT of either door. Nurses, janitors, suits, doesn't matter. If they're not authorized, I want them flagged." Jackson didn't blink. "You expecting heat? I don't trust coincidences. And I've made powerful enemies." Harlow handed me a burner phone linked to our feed. "Secure line. You'll get pinged every 6 hours. Sooner if anything. Move's good." I said, "No mistakes. That family's already been through enough." Understood. They split off, vanishing into the crowd like ghosts. And when I turned around, there they were, Kylie and Jimmy standing behind me. Silent. Kylie raised an eyebrow. Jimmy just looked impressed. "You just called in your own security team?" Kylie asked. "Yeah," I said, slipping the burner into my pocket. "Welcome to my version of Uncle Duty." Jimmy finally grinned. First time I'd seen it since I arrived. Small victories. After the hospital visit, we needed something normal, so I took them to In-N-Out, Double Doubles animal-style milkshakes, salt-stained fries scattered across a red tray like confetti from a war. None of us volunteered, for Jimmy attacked his food like he hadn't eaten in days. Kylie dipped a fry into her shake, watching me over the rim of her cup. "So do you just live off Army food?" she asked. I chuckled. "MRE's meals. Rejected by everyone. Gross. You learn to survive on worse." She studied me for a second. "You really don't talk much. Do you talking never kept me alive." Listening. Did Jimmy chimed in between mouthfuls. "Do you have, like, weapons?" I raised an eyebrow. Not in the trunk, if that's what you're thinking. He smirked. Cool. Kylie shook her head. God, he's going to ask to see your gear, isn't he? I shrugged. Only if he finishes his fries. She smiled just a little. Small cracks in the armor, but cracks let the light. And for the first time since I got back, the weight in my chest felt manageable. Maybe we weren't a family yet, but we were in the same car, on the same road, eating the same burgers. And that was a start. The drive was quiet. The sun had started dipping. Again, as we pulled into the driveway, Jimmy went straight inside and disappeared upstairs, probably texting friends or watching Warzone streamers on YouTube. Kylie didn't follow. She lingered on the porch arms, crossed leaning against one of the cracked support beams. Her eyes were fixed on me, reading between the lines, searching for what I hadn't said yet. You going to keep pretending this is just a regular week in the life? She asked. I sighed and leaned against the railing beside her. Wasn't planning on it, but I didn't exactly get a manual for this. She looked down at the porch steps. You left. All those years, we never saw you. Mom said you were too busy playing hero. Dad said you wanted nothing to do with the family. That one stone. I never said that, I replied, quiet but firm. Then why? Her voice cracked slightly. Why disappear? I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone caught between teenage defiance and a lifetime of disappointment. A kid trying to understand the adults who'd failed her. I had two choices: I could lie or I could tell the truth. I looked out across the neighborhood, same cracked sidewalks, same sunburned lawns I left because I was angry. I said, at your dad, at our parents, at all of it. She didn't interrupt, so I kept going. They took what was meant for me, my education, my future, everything Grandpa set aside so I could build a life. Instead, they pressured me into handing it over for your dad's wedding and house, and when I didn't, just roll over, they call me selfish. Kylie blinked, confused. Wait, you gave him the money? No. I loaned it legally. Had the trustee write up an agreement for years to pay it back. If not, the house became mine. Her eyes narrowed, and they didn't pay it back? I nodded. Not a single cent, but I didn't kick them out either. I walked away, joined the military, let them live there, didn't want to be the villain, even if that's what they painted me as. She stared at the floorboards. They never told us that. Of course they didn't. To them, I was the runaway, the disappointment. Easier to say, I vanished, than admit what they did. The silence between us stretched heavy. Then she looked up. So now that you're here, are you staying? I didn't hesitate. As long as you need me. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then she shifted her weight and turned toward me. You said something earlier about Grandpa leaving you a future, that they took it. What did you mean exactly? I motioned to the steps. She hesitated, then sat next to me. When I was your age, nobody believed in me. Not my parents, not even your dad, but Grandpa did. He set up a trust just for me. College education, a real shot. It was locked until I turned 18. He wanted me to break the cycle. She frowned, and then they just asked for it. They didn't ask, they guilt-tripped. Said, your dad deserved to start his life, right? Said family came first. They said it'd all come back to me later, and it didn't. No, not a penny, just silence. So, yeah, that inheritance, that future, it was supposed to be mine, and they took it. Kylie was quiet. Then softly they lied to us. I'm not here to turn you against them, but I won't let those lies get passed on. That cycle ends here. She nodded slowly. I still don't know if I trust you. That's fair, I said. Just don't give up on me before I've earned it. She stood brushing off her jeans. I'll make sure Jimmy doesn't eat the last Pop-Tart. I smiled. Thanks, that'd be a war crime. And just like that, a wall came down the house. Was quiet after Kylie and Jimmy went to bed. I stayed in the studio, lights low. The familiar hum of my portable rig, buzzed softly in the background, a sound that always made me feel grounded even in chaos. The burner phone from Argus buzzed once. Encrypted check-in. All clear at the hospital. Good. I turned back to my screens. Multiple windows ran simultaneously traffic. Data, satellite feeds, hospital security footage, GPS logs from the night of the crash. An old NSA contact had owed me a favor. They came through full packet captures from 2 roadside infrastructure towers near the accident site. Time to hunt. I traced the path of my brother's SUV from the gas station where they last stopped. Timestamp 10:27 p.m. They left the pump and pulled back onto the road. 5 minutes later, another vehicle locked into their wake. A black SUV, no plates, no front-facing camera hits. It kept pace for 8.3 miles. Never overtook, never fell back. Right up until the turn, the one where the crash happened, except the brakes didn't fail. They were overridden. I pulled up the vehicle's emergency system diagnostics, 10:38 p.m. A remote access command pinged the anti-lock braking system, not from the manufacturer, not from an authorized network. It was a forged signal masquerading as a software update, then cutting off midway through hijacking the control loop. This wasn't an accident. This was sabotage. I leaned back, jaw clenched. The question wasn't how anymore. It was why neither James nor Emma had ties to Phantom Circuit. No security clearance, no IP rights. They weren't even aware of my pending patents. So why go after them unless Cerberus wasn't trying to erase them? They were trying to flush me out. Classic tactic. Strike the family, draw the warfighter out of cover. Wait for the emotional response, then take the shot. They miscalculated. I wasn't just a soldier. Anymore, I was a tactician, a CEO, a survivor with 1,000 ghosts and a loaded Glock under my bed. They made it personal. I opened a secure channel and tapped out a message to Marcus Rain, my CTO at Phantom Circuit. Encrypted message confirmed background. On recent IP dispute. Cerberus angle crosscheck former JTF and DARPA advisors from GhostNet project. Look for anyone who's recently gone dark or jumped ship. I think they're not just after tech. They want leverage, they want me, and they're willing to kill to get it. Castillo, I hit send, then turned to the biometric gun case tucked under the studio bed. Press my thumb to the lock. It clicked open. Inside my old Glock 19. Gen 5. Custom optics suppressor ready. Field worn but flawless. It wasn't war yet, but I was getting ready for it. The night dragged on. I stayed glued to my screen watching the same surveillance feeds, scrubbing GPS logs for a detail I might have missed. I wasn't looking for confirmation anymore. I was looking for leverage. I needed something that tied Cerberus to this beyond theory. An hour in, Marcus replied. Encrypted message dug through Cerberus angles came up empty. No mergers, no IP filings overlapping Aegis, but found 3 GhostNet project contractors who disappeared last year. One name stood out, Derek Voss, former JSOC Intel liaison, ex-Go, GhostNet analyst. No exit paperwork, no trace since. If he flipped, it wasn't for a paycheck. That name hit like a gut punch. Derek Voss. I hadn't heard it in years. We weren't friends, but we'd worked the same circles. He had clearance to the GhostNet architecture. If he was working with Cerberus now, they weren't just trying to outmaneuver me. They were trying to steal my legacy. But that begged another question. Why the family hit? Boss didn't know James or Emma, neither did Roar. Not unless. Unless this was about more than just Phantom Circuit. Unless it was personal. I needed confirmation, something off the books. So I pulled out a burner phone I hadn't touched in years. Dialed. A secure number burned into my memory from another life. It rang twice. Then a voice answered. Rough, familiar, and calm. This is Adler. I hadn't heard his voice in almost a decade, but he hadn't changed. Still sounded like he ate classified files for breakfast. It's Castillo, I said. A pause. Jesus, you're still breathing. Barely. I need intel on a ghost. Derek Voss, ex-JSOC, former GhostNet analyst. I think he flipped. Might be working for Kerberos. Another pause. Then a low whistle. That name's radioactive. He didn't just flip. He vanished with a payload of blackite data, comm scrambler blueprints, deep surveillance models. He walked out with pieces of everyone. You track him yet? If he's above ground, I'll find the smoke. But be careful, Mario Voss doesn't burn bridges. He blows them up. Click. The line went dead. Later that morning, the smell of toast pulled me out of my head. Kylie stood in the kitchen, hair mess, wearing a hoodie and pajama pants. She was holding something in her hand, an envelope. Found. This in the bottom of your duffel bag, she said quietly. I froze. It was the letter, the one my grandfather wrote before he passed, the one I never opened. She held it out but didn't hand it over yet. I didn't read it. She said, but I saw the handwriting. It's his, isn't it? Yeah. Why haven't you opened it? I sat down. The chair creaked beneath me. My voice felt like gravel, because for a long time I didn't want last words. I wanted him here to tell me not to give up. I thought whatever was in that envelope couldn't undo what happened after he died. She handed it over. Maybe it still can. I took the letter, but didn't open it. Not yet. Some ghosts needed to be confronted in the right moment. Elsewhere, the Blaine's room. Jennifer sipped from a steel thermos, eyes locked on a laptop screen showing hospital logs and drone feeds. Ben walked in holding a manila folder, his face pale. You're going to want to see this. Inside photos, medical reports, a name circled in red. Major Michael Rohr, paralyzed, wheelchair, bound, scarred across the jaw, a name long thought buried in classified rubble. Jennifer's breath caught. That can't be. It is. Ben said he's listed as a silent partner in Cerberus Holdings. He's alive and he's back. I didn't hesitate. The second I saw Rohr's name connected to Kerberos, I made the call. I dialed a line I hadn't used in years, one reserved for people I trusted with my life. Even when trust was hard to come by, it rang once, twice. Then Castillo. A voice low, gravel-edged, unmistakable. Ben. Blaine. Yeah, I said it's time. A pause. I could almost hear the weight shift on the other end. Then you calling about Rohr? Yeah, I heard rustling, the sound of movement, a door shutting. Then another voice, sharp and clear, layered with concern and calm. Authority, Jennifer Blaine. She didn't waste time. Is this real? Rohr's alive? He's not just alive, I said. He's funding Cerberus, and he's already tried to kill my brother and sister-in-law. I need boots, eyes, experience. Yours. Jennifer was quiet for a beat. We're raising 2 kids now, Mario twins. We stepped away from this life, I know, and I wouldn't ask if I had another play. But this isn't just about me anymore. Cerberus made it personal. I have my niece and nephew. My company's under threat, and if Rohr gets what he wants, he won't. Then cut in. Another pause. Then a click. The sound of an old metal case unlatching. You want us? Jennifer said, you've got us, but we go all in. Tactical support field, recon surveillance. You don't get to face this storm alone. Agreed. I said ETA will be wheels down tomorrow night. Ben replied, we'll take the shadows. Make sure Kerberos doesn't make another move. I'll send you everything I have on them. Secure thread facial ID target profiles. Jennifer's voice softened, but it was razor sharp underneath. Don't make this worse. For the kids, Mario. We'll help you fight, but protect them first. I closed my eyes and nodded. I'm counting on you both. A new front. That night I packed a 3rd burner phone into the safe house's ops locker and uploaded a full data dump, the Cerberus. Case the black SUV, the vehicle, override the surveillance footage, and Rohr's connection. Then I stared at the ceiling. Ben and Jennifer weren't just old allies, they were the best of us. If Kerberos thought they'd caught me off guard, they were about to learn the hard way. I don't run, I reinforce, and when ghosts come calling, I call on my own. The morning after the hospital visit, I made pancakes. Not to be the cool uncle, I'm a terrible cook. Burned the first batch and almost torched the butter. But I needed something normal for them. And for me. The kitchen still smelled like dust and old memories. The sun poured in through the blinds at an angle that used to make me feel safe as a kid. Kylie was the first to shuffle in, hoodie on, hair messy, eyes guarded. She sat down without a word. Jimmy followed, rubbing his eyes, still waking up. He slid into the chair beside her and stared at the plate of pancakes like it might disappear. I placed a plate in front of each of them, then sat down across the table. Nobody spoke for a few minutes, and then Kylie, always the one to throw the first stone, broke the silence. "So what's the deal? That guy yesterday, the one with the security team, and that late-night call you made, you're acting like we're in a spy movie." I finished chewing, wiped my mouth, then leaned in. "There's something you both need to know about why your parents got hurt. About why I'm really here." They froze. Kylie straightened. Jimmy's fork stopped midair. The crash wasn't an accident. I said, "Someone sabotaged the car. Overrode the brakes remotely." Jimmy dropped his fork. "What?" Kylie's voice sharpened. "Why because of me? Because I built something powerful. A defense tech company and the people coming after it. They don't negotiate. They eliminate threats." Quietly. Jimmy leaned forward, eyes wide. "But we're not part of that. You weren't supposed to be, but your parents were close to me, and that made them targets." Kylie's expression twisted. "So what now? We just sit around while you go all John Wick on some corporate assassins?" I almost smiled. "No, you're not pawns, you're not baked, you're with me, and we're not hiding." Just then there was a knock at the front door. 3 short taps, 1 long. The code I'd sent the night before. We stood up. My Glock was already holstered at my hip. I walked to the door and opened it. Ben and Jennifer Blaine stood on the porch, all black. Tactical boots, duffel bags slung over their shoulders. Ben, tall, stone-faced, with eyes like steel. Jennifer, compact, sharp, calm, already scanning the perimeter. Kylie and Jimmy appeared behind me. Silent. Ben gave a nod. "These the kids?" "Yeah," I said. "Kylie." "Jimmy, meet Ben and Jennifer Blank. Best operators I've ever served with family. Even if not by blood." Jimmy blinked. "Are they like assassins?" Jennifer cracked a smile. Only on weekends. Ben crouched slightly to look Jimmy in the eye. "We're here to protect you no matter what. No one touches this house. No one touches your family. Got it?" Jimmy nodded slowly. Kylie stared, uncertain, but curious. I looked at them both. "I know this is a lot. I wish I could say it's going to calm down soon, but that would be a lie." They didn't flinch. Good. That meant they were starting to believe me. Jennifer stepped forward. "We'll need to reinforce the perimeter. Cameras, motion sensors, drones, if we can get them." Ben looked to me. "You ready for this?" I nodded, then turned to Kylie and Jimmy. "This is your home now, and no one takes it from us. This place is a soft target." Jennifer muttered, walking the perimeter with a handheld scanner. "Chain link fence, no motion detection, weak exterior doors. If Cerberus wants in, they'll be through this place in under 90 seconds. Then we fix it," Ben said. "Today, we moved fast. No hesitation, no wasted time." Ben and I handled exterior security. Motion-activated cameras with encrypted drone-linked feeds mounted along the perimeter. Each one fed into a secure relay point and straight to our mobile systems and Argus's command node. Jennifer worked the doors and windows, calibrating shock sensors and reinforcement plates on every entry point. She moved with the cold efficiency of someone who had installed this kind of defense in war zones. Kylie helped install smart floodlights and tripwire alerts, hands steady, mind sharp. She didn't ask questions. She followed instructions like she'd been waiting to be useful. Jimmy claimed the garage under Jennifer's supervision. He helped rig up a backup generator and 2 portable drone charging Docs. He didn't say much, but he listened, learned, moved with quiet focus. They weren't just watching anymore. They were part of this. Now, later that night, the perimeter was live. I'd parked the GSXR behind reinforced garage doors, floodlights on a 30C second-owned interval rotation. I reviewed the latest Argus status report from the hospital. All quiet. No breaches, no unexpected visitors. Then I turned back to my screen and opened the latest encrypted file Marcus had sent over former contractors. Cerberus shell companies. Project Aegis clones. One name stood out: Derek Voss, former JSOC liaison, cleared for GhostNet, missing for over a year, but he wasn't dead. His name appeared in Cerberus metadata buried in a patent filing submitted through a front company based out of Zurich. The design, a prototype, AI defense net modeled, suspiciously close to Project Aegis. They weren't trying to compete with us. They were trying to beat us to market using my tech, but Aegis was too advanced to copy, easily too specific, too personal. That meant they were missing pieces, and that meant they were coming back. Meanwhile, in the backyard, Jennifer sat on an old folding chair under the motion light, sipping from a thermos. Kylie sat beside her, Coco in hand. Kylie stared at the dark sky. "He seems like a different person," Mario, Jennifer asked. Kylie nodded. "I always imagined him like this myth, this angry ghost who just left and now he's back and I don't know, a war machine with too many secrets." "Woo!" Jennifer let the silence breathe for a moment, then she asked, "You ever seen a tree grow through concrete?" Kylie frowned. "No, doesn't mean it doesn't happen." Jennifer looked over at her. "That's Mario. He was buried. Pressure rage loss. And somehow, he didn't just survive. He grew through it." Kylie looked back toward the garage studio. "What if we're not enough to keep him here? What if he disappears again?" Jennifer's voice was soft but strong. "You are exactly the reason he came back. And trust me, he's not going anywhere." Inside, I stared at the name on my screen. Derek Voss, a ghost, a thief. And maybe the key to all of this, I didn't know when Cerberus would strike next. But I was done playing defense. 1:13 a.m. Everyone else was asleep. But my brain didn't have an off switch. Not anymore. I stared at the names still glowing on my screen. Derek Voss. The more I dug, the worse it got. He hadn't just disappeared. He'd erased himself. No bank activity. No social records. No signals. Clean. Vanishing act. Too clean. He didn't just go dark, he went operational. I was missing something. A crack in the silence. I remember that morning when Kylie stood in the kitchen barefoot, holding a yellowed envelope. It was the letter, my grandfather's, the one I'd never opened. Then finally, when I opened it, "Mario, you were never meant to follow the path laid out for you. You were meant to forge one. That's why I set things aside. Not to protect you from hardship, but to give you the fuel to fight through it. The world is cruel. People you love will fail you. But your strength was never in your fists or your training. It was in your heart. That's what I saw. When others try to break what you build, remember who you are. Not a soldier, not a weapon, a builder, a protector, a man with something worth fighting for, and don't ever let this world make you cold. Grandpa." I folded the letter and tucked it into my jacket pocket. The words hit like a punch and a hug. All at once. Meanwhile, the Blaine's room. Jennifer was reviewing surveillance footage. Eyes narrowed. Ben walked in holding a thin folder. "Found something? You're not going to like it. I'm inside photos. Hospital reports and a name stamped and bold across. The top Major Michael Rohr, scarred in a wheelchair, alive. A war criminal wearing a suit, now listed as a silent partner in Cerberus Holdings." Jennifer went cold. "It's him?" Ben nodded. "That staged accident. That might have been his move." Jennifer looked Out the window voiced like steel. He always made things personal. The air in the house was thick, not just with tension, but with the weight of the past creeping back into the present. I gathered everyone in the living room. Ben and Jennifer sat across from me, both rigid but alert. Old warriors in a temporary ceasefire. Kylie and Jimmy perched on the edge of the couch trying to read the room without falling into it. Jennifer broke the silence. Years ago, after we left the service, we set up in Colorado. Small property in Leadville. Looked like a cabin, was actually a training compound. Ben nodded. It wasn't for profit, we weren't mercs, we were just building something safer, something smarter. Then his tone darkened, but that's where Roar found us. I sat. Sir, forward. What happened? Ben's jaw clenched. He was my old co-Marine Force recon. At first he seemed stable, intense but fair. But over time he changed, became obsessed. Jennifer added, he fixated on Ben, saw him as the perfect. Operator wanted to mold him into something else. Ben's voice dropped. During a mission years earlier, I was captured by the Taliban, held for 8 months, interrogated, tortured. They injected me with something experimental. Took months before I was evacuated to Ramstein. That's when I found out the injections made me sterile. He looked away, pain creeping into his voice. By the time I was sent to Walter Reed, I made a decision. I broke things off with Jennifer. She deserved a family, kids, a future. Jennifer's eyes glistened, but she didn't speak. Ben continued. While I was trying to disappear, Jennifer and our crew were searching for me. At some point they returned to the compound to regroup. She picked up the thread. That's when Roar struck, declared Marshall. Law around the property using forged orders took over Fort Collins with a private unit, painted us as domestic terrors, had us detained. I leaned forward, stunned, and no one stopped him. Not in time, Ben said. When I got word, I came home, did what I had to. Roar didn't expect me to fight back. Jennifer gave a humorless smile. He went through 4 wheelchairs that week. Ben chuckled once, but he left a few parting gifts. He booby-trapped the latrine. Our friend Byron didn't make it. Jennifer touched her side and me. One of Roar's army surgeons implanted a mini IED inside me, claimed it was insurance. We found it during a routine skin weeks later. Kylie gasped, covering her mouth. Jimmy looked like he wanted to throw up. Jennifer stared at me. We thought it was over. We thought he was gone. I nodded slowly. He's not. He's Kiberis now, and he's just getting started. Before anyone could speak, the alarm blared. High-pitched, pulsing, sharp perimeter breach. Ben was already moving, weapon in hand. Multiple. Signatures armed. Jennifer ran to the window front yard. Fast movers, suppressed weapons. Classic. Server strike team. I turned to Kylie and Jimmy. You remember the plan? They nodded, wide-eyed. Go now. They bolted toward the basement. The safe room would hold. Ben tossed me a rifle. Looks like Roar didn't waste any time. I chambered around. Let's show him. Neither did we. The house wasn't just a home anymore. It was a battlefield. And this time we were ready. The storm came fast. Shadows sprinted across. The yard boots crunching, gravel muzzles flashing dimly under the porch light. Cerberus had sent a message, and we were about to send one back. Ben moved to the east flank. Silent tactical. A ghost in the dark. Jennifer took the second-floor rifle, steady. On the windowsill with a clear sightline down the front lawn. I held center. The front door reinforced, locked, but not for long. The drone feed on my wrist showed 7 hostiles. 4 up front, 3 circling the back. All armed, all confident. Mistake. Number 1, Jennifer's voice came through the comms, crisp and low. 2 front coordinated entry. Think they're breaching. Ben taking number 3, silent approach. I gave the signal. Go loud, crack. Jennifer fired first. Suppressed 1, target dropped without a sound. A silhouette folding into the bushes like a bad decision. Ben followed suit. A flash of steel in the hedgerow clean takedown. Another one down before they even noticed he was there. For left, I muttered. I kicked open the front door, Glock raised, and dropped 2 more with quick center mass bursts. One went down instantly, the second screamed once and collapsed. 2 more, Jennifer confirmed. Rear flank, crack, crack. 2 more flashes from the second-story window. One fell flat, the other stumbled. Tried to run but didn't make it, Clear, Ben said, stepping over a crumpled body. One still breathing. Good, I replied. Let's ask him some questions. Garage 5 minutes later, the last man sat zip-tied to a steel support beam, bleeding from the mouth eyes. Defiant, Ben stood behind him, arms crossed. Jennifer watched the monitors. I crouched in front of him with a towel, wiping the blood from my knuckles. Who sent you? He spat. Come on, I said calmly. You and I both know Kiberus doesn't operate without a chain of command. Doesn't matter, he muttered. You're already dead. I smiled. Been hearing that my whole life. I grabbed his radio, tossed it onto the workbench. Military grade encrypted, but Marcus could crack it. Then I leaned in closer. Tell Roar I'm still breathing. Tell him the kids are safe, and tell him if he wants me, he better come himself next time. He grinned through broken teeth. He will. Ben pistol whipped him across the temple. A clean strike. He slumped unconscious. Jennifer glanced at the clock. We've got 5 minutes before their QRF pings them missing. I opened the safe room panel. Kylie and Jimmy emerged, pale but standing. Jimmy looked around. That was them, wasn't it? I nodded. First wave, Kylie whispered. Will there be more? Ben answered without hesitation. Yeah, but they won't be ready for us. The garage still smelled like cordite and blood. Ben and Jennifer were upstairs packing go-backs, securing weapons crates, and triple-checking ammo. Kylie and Jimmy stayed close, shaken but focused. Jennifer walked them through evac procedures with the same calm she used on foreign soil. They followed every step, no questions asked. They were learning fast. They were survivors now. I tapped into the Phantom Circuit, secure channel from the garage. Activate Echo Relay, Safe House, Charlie for inbound, ETA. 90 minutes. Marcus came on immediately. Copy that. Drone sweeps clean. Route is green, sights prepped. You staying behind? He asked. For now, I said. I've got one more loose end to tie up. A pause. Understood. Sending final clearance now. Travel safe. 20 minutes later. Interrogation. The last attacker was zip-tied to a beam, barely conscious, blood crusted over one eyebrow. He still had fight in him. Good. I dragged a chair in front of him and sat down, rolling up my sleeves. He sneered. What now, you going to kill me? No, I said, not yet. I slid my combat knife onto the table between us. The blade gleamed beneath the flickering garage light. You already told me Kbera sent you, but I need one thing. Location. Roar's safe house. Give it to me, and this ends quickly. He didn't answer. I leaned in, lowered my voice. Or don't, and I'll start peeling layers. His jaw tightened. He tried to smirk, but it faltered. Finally. Old mining town, North Nevada, underground vault code name. Thresher's Cradle, only Roar and Voss have the keys. I nodded, then walked behind. Him, he muttered. You won't do it. You're a soldier. You have rules. I locked my hands around his skull. You broke those rules the second you came after my family. Snap. His body went limp. No mercy. No second chances. I grabbed a red marker from the tool drawer and scribbled on the concrete wall above his body. You're next. Roar. Then I primed a small incineration charge-controlled burn, enough to clean up the DNA. We were ghosts again. 15 minutes later, en route, the Phantom Circuit SUV sped through the winding foothills. Ben at the wheel, Jennifer up front, rifle broken down at her feet. Kylie and Jimmy sat in the back, quiet, processing, holding on to each other like they were the last 2 pieces of something real. Jimmy whispered, He's not going to let them win, is he? Kylie didn't look away from the window. No, he's not. Safe house. Echo. Charlie 1. The blast doors slid open with a mechanical hiss. The mountain swallowed them whole. Inside solar backup, drone ports, encrypted comms, hardened. Bunkers rooms for each of them, designed by Phantom Circuit, funded by quiet money and paranoid dreams. Ben parked the SUV and powered down systems. Jennifer ran diagnostics. Kylie stared around the entryway. Jimmy stepped out, eyes wide. This is a Bond villain base. Ben grinned, except we're the good guys. Jennifer cracked her knuckles. And villains don't make hot cocoa for teenagers. She tossed Jimmy a protein bar. He caught it without blinking far away. Cerberus Blackite, Nevada. Roar stared at a map of the Sierra Nevada mountains. The garage attack team had failed. Badly, he didn't even flinch. Instead, he turned to Derek Voss, hunched over a keyboard. Did they run? Voss nodded. We lost them. Phantom Circuit, safe house, off-grid, encrypted, routing. Roar rolled his wheelchair toward the screen, jaw twitching, then flushed them again. He tapped the Sierra Nevada coordinates. Shake the tree hard enough, and even ghosts fall out. The air in the garage still carried the bitter scent of scorched metal and blood. Roar rolled over the threshold, flanked by 2 Cerberus enforcers in full tactical gear. His wheelchair made a soft hum against the concrete floor. He didn't speak at first. He just scanned the scene like a battlefield commander, surveying a failed op. There was no doubt what had happened. His men had been taken apart, tactically efficiently. He wheeled closer and looked up at the wall, at the message scrolled in blood-red marker above a scorched patch of floor. "You're next." He let out a slow, growly chuckle. One of his men cleared his throat. "Sir, last hostile cervical spine fracture, execution. No evidence left behind. Whoever did this, I know who did it." Roar cut in. "I taught him." He picked up a spent shell casing from the floor and turned it in his fingers. Castillo's not just defending. He's sending warnings, calculated ones. He stared up at the words again. He's not hiding. He's daring me to come. Roar rolled the shell casing across his knuckles and said, "We tried to bait a sniper and woke up a warhound. Sierra Foothills Safe House. Echo Charlie 1. The convoy reached the blast doors right as the sun began to rise. Kylie stared through the window at the towering rocks and hidden mountain entrance. It didn't look like much from the outside. Inside, it was another story. Ben tapped the fob. The doors hissed open. They rolled into a dimly lit corridor lined with steel and reinforced concrete. Motion lights flicked on as they passed. "Welcome to your new home," Jennifer said. Jimmy looked around. "And all this is wild, this is peace," Ben replied. "At least for now." Inside the safe house felt like something out of a movie. Armory, medical bay, secure server room, living quarters. Kylie and Jimmy explored. Like kids in a museum of secrets, Ben walked them through. The lockdown protocols. Jennifer demonstrated how to check the perimeter systems and access the silent alarm Jimmy called dibs on the bunk with a mounted flashlight. Kylie found an old corkboard covered in pinned mission patches and tactical blueprints. "This place was built by someone who thought the world might end," she said. Jennifer shrugged. "Or someone who knew what it meant when it didn't." Meanwhile, Cerberus War Room. Derek Voss hunched over his terminal in a dark room. Screens flickering with security footage, GPS pulses and encrypted locks. He looked exhausted, edges, fraying eyes bloodshot. Roar entered without speaking. He didn't have to. Boss clicked a few keys, pulled up a topographic map of the Sierra Nevada range. "We've tracked drone signals near this sector, but it's locked down. No access. No signal bleed. Phantom Circuit's playing this." Smart Roar stared at the screen. "Doesn't matter," he said. "We'll flush him one layer at a time." He rolled forward, gaze locked on the blinking pulse. Near the coordinates, start with his company, cut off funding, crash his satellites, target his allies. Boss hesitated, and the family. Roar's voice dropped to a whisper. They're his heartbeat. He smiled slow and cruel, and I want to see what happens when it skips. Back at the safe house later that night, Kylie sat in the operations room, staring at a flickering file on the screen. It was labeled Legacy Contingency, Castillo, M. Locked encrypted, but the meaning was clear. Everything he built, Phantom Circuit, the safe houses. The security net was to protect something bigger than himself. She turned to the wall, where Mario's grandfather's letter had been carefully tacked beside a photo of Mario in uniform. Kylie whispered to herself, "He didn't come back, because he had to." She looked over at Jimmy curled up on a bunk. Finally asleep, he came back, because he couldn't live with losing someone else. Sierra Foothills. Safe House. Echo. Charlie 1. Kylie moved through the dim hallways barefoot, her flashlight. Casting soft arcs of light over the concrete floor, Jimmy followed close behind in socks, a blanket draped over his shoulders like a cape. They passed the kitchen, then the armory, then a locked door labeled Operations Hub Restricted. Kylie glanced at Jimmy. "Think it's locked?" Jimmy gave a shrug. "Only one way to find out." She tapped the console. Click, the door hissed open. Inside was another world. Dark walls lit by the glow of tactical maps, glowing monitors, encrypted comm feeds. There were white boards scribbled with algorithms and diagrams. A holographic table flickered to life as they stepped in. Jimmy's jaw dropped. This is like a command center for a superhero. Kylie moved to the shelf and picked up a photo in a cracked leather frame. It was Mario younger in full Delta gear, flanked by Ben and Jennifer. They looked younger too, a little less scarred, a little more alive. She flipped the frame over and found a sticky note folded behind it for the ones who didn't make it home. Keep moving. Jimmy knelt beside a locked case with a glowing biometric pad labeled in clean blocked text. Castillo, Tier 1. Archive. "Think that's where he keeps the really dark stuff?" Jimmy asked. "Where the really important stuff," Kylie replied. She didn't. "Try to open it." Not yet. Meanwhile, unknown, Siberius location buried beneath a Nevada black site named Thresher's Cradle. Major. Michael Roar sat in a climate-controlled war room. His body was broken, but his mind sharp as ever. He watched the drone footage, tapping his finger on the table. "Castillo's gone dark," said Voss, eyes locked on a scrambled heat signature map. "No GPS, no network bleed, they've completely ghosted." "Doesn't matter," Roar replied. He turned to a large touchscreen, a top-down map of California with blinking nodes. He tapped one marked PCT Lab 07. "Start here. Anything tied to Phantom Circuit, destroy it. Proxy strikes, no trail." No mercy. Boss hesitated. "And Castillo's team?" "If we can't find the Warhound," Roar growled, "we'll burn down his den." Back at the safe house, Kylie sat in front of the central terminal staring at an encrypted folder titled Legacy Contingency Castillo M, still locked. But it felt heavy, like whatever was inside wasn't just operational data. It was the why behind everything. Behind the security, behind the ghost protocols, behind Mario himself. She ran her fingers over the desk, found a notepad tucked under the monitor. One line, scribbled in his handwriting: "The only thing more dangerous than losing everything is losing someone you never had a chance to save." Then she sat back, eyes wide, heart heavy. Mario hadn't built all this because he expected to survive. He'd built it so someone else could. The blast door sealed behind me with a deep, mechanical hiss. The safe house was still the kind of stillness that felt more like waiting than peace. I checked the motion sensors. No breaches. I checked the drone relays. Clear skies. Then I checked the ops room feed. There she was, Kylie sitting cross-legged on the floor, lit only by the soft blue glow of the monitors. A photo in her lap. She didn't flinch when I entered. Just held the photo up. It was old, faded me out of uniform, smiling like a man who hadn't seen war yet. My arm wrapped around a woman with dark curly hair and eyes that looked like they'd seen everything and forgiven most of it. Her hand rested gently on her pregnant belly. Her name was Sophia. I sat down beside Kylie. She was a combat medic, tougher than anyone I served with, smarter too. We got married in secret, no ceremony, just us, and a courthouse judge who didn't ask questions. Kylie stayed quiet. She was pregnant, a boy. We were going to name him Julian. My hands were shaking now, just slightly. I'd already re-enlisted before I knew. Tried to get out, tried to defer, but we were short. On team leads? They said the mission was critical. Kylie didn't move. I swallowed hard while I was in a desert half a world away. She was driving home from a prenatal checkup. A teenager ran a red light. Drunk, hit her side of the car, going 85. I closed. My eyes? They didn't make it. Kylie's voice was soft. Why didn't you ever tell anyone? Because once I did, it would be real. And I didn't know how to be that man anymore. Not a husband, not a father, just a soldier, a weapon. She didn't say anything, not at first. Then you're not just a weapon anymore. I looked at her. Really? Looked at her. She had her mother's strength, her father's sharp edge, but something else too. Something new. You deserve to know who I am, I said. Not just the scars. Not just the stories, the man behind them. Then tell me, she said, all of it. I nodded. For the first time in a long time, I let my shoulders drop. Just a little, I will. No more secrets. She smiled gently and handed me the photo. It still felt warm in my hands. For a moment, I didn't feel like a ghost. I felt like a man. The safe house hummed with quiet motion. Drones recharging, security feeds, looping servers, updating in the background. I stepped into the comms room, coffee in hand, expecting another routine systems check. Then the screen lit up. Red priority alert phantom. Circuit node 6 offline. Node 6, our northern satellite relay based out of Vancouver. Gone. Before I could speak. Marcus patched in, his voice was tight. Clipped, Mario. Node 6 was hit. It's not just down, it's gone. Direct strike explosive. No survivors at the tech annex. The coffee dropped from my hand. Casualties, a pause, then 4, all civilian techs. One was Jenna Liu. I sat down, hard breath, catching in my throat. Jenna, 27, smart as hell, loyal to the bone. She helped me draft the Echo protocol we shared. Thai takeout and long shifts and dry jokes about coding while dodging. World War. She just sent me a picture of her new puppy last week. Gone, confirmed. Kberis? I asked. No paper trail, Marcus said, but the blast signature. Same kind of ordnance used in their shadow ops, and Roar's name showed up on a dissolved shell company filing 2 days before the hit. I didn't respond, didn't move. Marcus knew better than to fill the silence. I stared at the floor, then at the photo of Sophia and me still sitting on the ops desk. Then I looked at the kids' sleeping quarters through the feed, and it hit me. This wasn't just about IP. This wasn't business. This was personal. Jennifer and Ben entered without knocking. They'd heard Jennifer sat beside me. Ben leaned against the door. This is getting out of control, she said. No, I corrected her. This was out of control. Now it's a war. Ben crossed his arms. We underestimated him. No, I replied, I did. I opened the encrypted vault on the main terminal and pulled up something I hadn't looked at in years. Operation Frost Lance classified, redacted a mission report, Eastern Europe. 10 years ago, Roar and I had been on that op together. We were ghosts then. No press, no medals, just shadows. In a burned-out Soviet lab, intel had gone sideways. We were ambushed. Roar went missing. I was team lead. And I gave the order to exfil. I left him behind. I had to. We were compromised, wounded, running low on ammo, and hope. I thought he was dead, but he wasn't. He survived, and now he was doing the same thing to me, leaving pieces of me buried, one body at a time. Kylie stepped into the room, eyes wide, voice steady. "You said he's not after your company anymore, that he's after you." I nodded. "Yeah." "Then stop playing defense," she said. "You always say you protect your own, so protect them." I looked at her and at Jimmy, who stood behind her, trying to look brave, but barely holding it together. And I made a decision. No more waiting. No more retreating. No more lines in the sand. I said. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, "we go to war. 10 years ago, classified black site. Eastern Europe, we called it Operation Frost Lance. No uniforms, no patches, no existence on paper. Our job was simple. Breach a decommissioned Soviet facility, extract stolen biotech, and erase the evidence. Roar led the mission. I was his second. We dropped. Under cover of darkness. Full kit, 8 men, silent entry. The first 2 floors were abandoned. Dusty hallways, rusted doors, flickering lights. Then we hit sub-level 3 and walked into a trap. Explosions tore through the corridor. Concrete rained from the ceiling. 2 of our team went down immediately, 1 dead, the other bleeding out. Alarm screamed. Lights failed. Motion sensors lit up red across every exit. "Fall back," I shouted, dragging our wounded into a side room, but Roar was missing. The last anyone heard was his voice over comms, static bleeding through his words. "I'm hit. Stairwell 2. Hostiles everywhere. Cut off, can't move," I yelled back, trying to lock onto his beacon, but it was fading. Ben was already hauling a wounded teammate toward the breach point. We were outnumbered, outgunned, no air support. I made the call, X-full. Now, that's an order. We carried the injured, left behind the dead, and left behind Roar. The blast took out half the stairwell seconds after we cleared it. Intel later claimed the building collapsed. Roar was declared KIA. I believed it until now. Present-day safehouse ops room. The screen glowed with a decrypted mission file I hadn't seen in years. Operation Frost Lance, status closed. Deceased for missing 1 command. Castillo M recommendation file sealed. I stared at the name at the bottom. Roar M presumed dead, but he hadn't died. He survived, and something in him had broken. Ben entered the room, silently, his eyes drifting to the file. He didn't speak. He knew what I was reading. Jennifer followed, setting down a small burner phone. "Message just came in," she said. "Not encrypted, just raw audio." I hit play. It was Work's voice. "You left me to die. Mario, you heard me call for help and you ran. I spent 3 weeks in that tomb, clawing my way through frozen stone and silence. You left me in the dark, so now I'm going to drag you into mine." The message ended. Silence. Jennifer looked at me. "You couldn't have saved him." "Not then." I stood slowly, my jaw clenched. "Doesn't matter. He thinks I could have Ben picked up a rifle from the rack, so what do we do now?" I stared at the screen. A tone, I said, "We fight back. Not for vengeance, not for redemption." I looked down the hallway toward the kids' rooms. "But for the people we can still save." The safe house buzzed with quiet preparation. Weapons cleaned, comm scrubbed, supply inventory updated. Everyone moved with purpose, but we all felt the shift in the air. Something was coming. The ops terminal lit up with a soft chime. Incoming encrypted message. Voss, D. I tapped the file open. A video began to play. No intro, no encryption banners, just Derek Voss sitting in a dark room. The glow of a monitor casting deep shadows across his face. He looked like hell, unshaven eyes, red-rimmed fingers twitching like they didn't trust his own words. Then he spoke. "Mario, if you're watching this, I've already crossed a line I can't walk back from." He looked off screen, swallowed, then returned to the lens. "I used to believe in the mission in protocol, in the chain of command. But Roar, he's not hunting you for revenge. He's doing it because he wants to replace you. He wants to twist what you built. He sees Phantom Circuit as the legacy he was owed. You left him behind, and in his mind, that made you a traitor. Voss leaned forward, rubbing his face. I helped him, I fed him access. I gave him the breach vectors for your firewall. I gave him targets. Because I believed what? He was selling that the government would bury us all eventually, and that it was better to carve out our own kingdom before they did. He stared into the camera now. His voice cracked. But what he did in Colorado? That's when I knew I'd backed the wrong monster. The screen flickered just for a moment. Static, then darkness. Message ended. The ops room. Moments later, Jennifer stood silently behind me. Ben paced near the door, arms folded tight. What did he mean by what he did in Colorado? I asked. Ben's jaw tightened. Jennifer looked pale. She didn't speak right away. Finally, she pulled the collar of her shirt aside, revealing a small circular scar near her ribs, faint but unmistakable. I didn't get that from combat, she said. Ben added, voice low. After we left the service, we set up a compound in Colorado, just us a few trusted allies. It was supposed to be a place to train and protect our own. Jennifer continued, her voice flat and sharp. Roar found us declared. Martial law used his Siberus influence to seize a military base and label us domestic threats, said we were planning a coup. Ben's face darkened. He bombed our latrine. Our friend Byron died in that blast. We found his dog tags embedded in a tree. I clenched my fists. Jennifer's hands trembled slightly as she spoke. Later during evac, doctors found something inside me. A small device, surgical, hidden. I didn't want to believe it. He implanted an IED in you, I asked, horrified. She nodded. A backup, kill switch. He called it insurance. Said if I ever disobeyed again, he'd detonate it remotely. Ben stepped forward. We got it out barely, but the scar stayed. I looked back at the screen. Voss's frozen face still lingering there. This isn't just war, muttered. This is a vendetta. Ben nodded grimly. He doesn't want to defeat you. He wants to erase you. Jennifer's eyes hardened. Then we make sure he never gets the chance. I stared at the wall for a long moment, then turned to the weapons locker. If he wants ghosts, let's show him what happens when they fight back. The war room glowed in low light. The quiet hum of servers, drones, and standby and encrypted channels syncing felt like the deep breath before the punch. I stared at the tactical display, satellite feeds, asset trackers, Cabre's shell companies, blinking across the map like veins in a living organism. We couldn't keep hiding, so I decided to poke the bear. Phantom Circuit Backdoor Beacon Protocol, I designed it years ago as a failsafe, an intentionally flawed code string buried deep inside one of our earliest software versions. Harmless on its own, but once activated, it would emit a digital signature. Only someone like Voss or Roar would recognize. I pulled it from the archive and keyed it into our Sacramento branch node. A phantom ping a trap disguised as a mistake. Marcus came through comms. You sure about this? No, I replied. But Roar doesn't play cautious. He plays obsessed. He sees this signal. He'll think he has an opening. Jennifer leaned over my shoulder. And if he takes the bait? Ben answered from across the room, checking a rifle. Then we closed the net. Sierra foothills. Later that night, Kylie sat on the safe house roof with a thermal blanket and a cup of instant cocoa. Jimmy was beside her, chewing on a protein bar like it was steak. You think he knows what he's doing? Jimmy asked Kylie. Looked toward the horizon where the last glow of the sunset dipped behind dark trees. I think he's done losing people, Jimmy nodded. Good, because I don't want to be next. She smiled sadly. Neither do I, somewhere in Nevada, Siberus Tactical Hub. The ping didn't go unnoticed. Roar wheeled into the darkened server chamber, Voss trailing behind, visibly tense. One of their techs looked up. We've intercepted a ghost signal legacy code, pre-Aegis architecture. Voss leaned in, eyes narrowing. It's a backdoor beacon, buried intentionally. Roar's voice was calm. Too calm. Castillo just lit a flare. Either he's panicking or he's baiting us? Boss hesitated. Then maybe we don't. We move. Roar snapped. Send in recon. I want boots on the ground. Hard and fast. If it's a trap, we'll flip it on him. He turned to the screen and whispered, "You want a war? Mario, let's burn it down." Back at the safe house, the encrypted feed confirmed it. Cerberus had taken the bait recon drones launched. A small forward team was mobilizing. They were treating it like a breach. Exactly what I wanted. Ben grinned. They're coming. Jennifer loaded the last mag into her sidearm. Then let's give them a welcome party. I looked to the kids, Kylie nodding from the hallway, Jimmy watching the cameras like it was a video game. This was it. No more running. No more waiting. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were fighting back. The night was quiet, too quiet. Outside the safe house, the Sierra trees swayed in the cold wind, moonlight flickering through the canopy like a strobe. Inside, everything was locked down, reinforced, sealed, ready. Ben sat by the front, window rifle across his lap. Jennifer paced near the comm station, watching our silent motion sensors light up one by one. "They're close." "Oh," she murmured. "Too close," I said. "They're not being subtle." I pulled up the feed from our surveillance drone, Cerberus operatives' 10-man unit tactical gear, no insignia, all black standard denial loadout. I counted 2 snipers in Overwatch A-Tech, unit scanning the perimeter, and a breacher team near our utility access hatch. They were moving like this was a sweep and clear, not a fight mistake. Safe house interior. Ops room. I looked to the kids. Jimmy was in the comms nest with a headset on, prepped to run fallback drone coordination. Kylie stood near the reinforced stairwell sidearm on her hip, eyes alert. "You sure you're ready for this?" I asked her. She nodded. "You taught me?" Ben showed me the rest. Jimmy gave a shaky thumbs-up. Drones are online. "You just say the word." I gave them a look. Equal parts pride and fear. Stay inside, stay safe, we finish this. Outside Aero 200 hours. Cerberus reached the outer perimeter. They didn't expect the mines. 3 short detonations. Boom, 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 2. Men down, 1 disoriented. Ben opened fire from the Trion. Suppressed surgical. Jennifer positioned upstairs, picked off their comms man with a shot through the throat. The rest scrambled for cover. They tried to flank. We planned for that. I triggered. The side charges flashbangs with subsonic spikes scrambled their night vision and their drones. Chaos. Just how we liked it. Inside the safe house, the kids were calm, scared, yes, but focused. Kylie moved to the backup comm system as we shifted to phase 2. Jimmy pulled up thermal scans. They've split 3 on the west wall. 2, trying the tunnel entrance. Ben's voice crackled through comms. "Copy, I'm moving on tunnel flank." Jennifer spoke from Overwatch. 2 more coming from the north ridge. Fast, I stepped outside into the night, into the war. 1 hour later, the last of the Cerberus team was down. 1 wounded, 1 captured, the rest dead. Jennifer Zip tied the survivor. Blooded but breathing. That's the last one. Ben limped, slightly took a round to the vest, but nothing vital. I stood over the captured man and crouched. "You came to burn down a house," I said. "But this isn't a house, it's a fortress. You." He sneered. "Roar won't stop." I smiled. "Neither will I." Days later, Phantom Circuit Underground HQ Weed relocated the kids and team to another safe house. Offered even more secure, I spent the next 48 hours coordinating with Marcus and our overseas contractors. While Roar retreated, we retaliated. Cyber strikes, infrastructure takedowns, financial paralysis, 1 shell company at a time. His world started collapsing from the inside. Final note, Mario's journal. I was never supposed to be a leader. I was never supposed to raise kids or build companies or fight a war I didn't ask for, but here I am. And the thing that keeps me going, what separates me from men like Roar, isn't how hard I hit back. It's that I know what I'm fighting for. Kylie, Jimmy, the people who stayed, the ghosts I still carry. This war isn't over, not by a long shot, but for the first time I know who I am, and I'm not running anymore. Epilogue. Echoes never fade 3 months later. Unknown location. The safe house is quieter now. Not because the danger is gone, but because we've learned how to live with the silence. Kylie is back in school, online courses, remote tutoring, and a part-time internship with Phantom Circuit's Secure Systems Division. She still asks questions that stings, sometimes still sees things most kids shouldn't. But there's fire in her eyes now. Jimmy built a drone from scratch last week, gave it a name. Guardian says it's for me, even though he's the one piloting it. I don't argue. Ben and Jennifer rotate in and out, protecting other families, mentoring young operators, keeping the fire burning without burning out. As for me, I'm no longer active duty. I'm a civilian now, a guardian, a builder, a CEO, a father figure. I've still got ghosts, still have scars, but I also have something else, a future, and I'm not giving it up without a fight. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.